Welcome back to another episode of Testimony Tuesday. It is I, Miguel Rangel, and I am here solo. Today is a perfect opportunity. We're just starting off the year. We've had one episode into the 2024, which has been amazing. I know we're just starting the year, but it's worth it to give yourself a pat on the back for being consistent, and hearing you guys' feedback has truly kept me motivated for more. So why not give you guys something in return? Another personal, deep, but amazing testimony that I myself had to live through. So let's dive right in. So before I start the actual testimony, let me just tell you that last week, talking to Pastor Martin about COVID affecting the church, I said, why not? Why not talk about COVID? The reality is that COVID affected everybody, whether it was you personally, whether it was a loved one, whether it was someone that you knew. But COVID affected every single person on this earth. The whole world stopped for some time. Everybody was talking about COVID. Facebook was talking about COVID. Twitter was talking about COVID. You know, the whole social media world was talking about COVID. The regular media, all news, were talking about COVID. Churches were talking about COVID. Las hermanas de la iglesia were talking about COVID. And we know those hermanas talk about everything else. But this time they were talking about COVID. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I hope I made you laugh on that one. We were all affected by COVID, but at least me, I was very skeptical at first. But who wasn't? The first thing that came through my mind was, is this even real? Is COVID even real? Does COVID even exist? Does COVID even apply to me? We hadn't had a plague in, how many years? This was a first for everyone. So being skeptical was the norm. It was either you were 100% skeptical or you were 100% for sure that it was real, or you were like me, in between. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's not. Sometimes people would over-exaggerate, sometimes they don't. I don't know why COVID happened. What I do know is that COVID created this thing that was brought into the churches, which is bad and good at the same time, because here is what COVID did create. COVID separated the people who were strong in their faith from the people who were not. COVID created those who truly were being there for God from those who were just visiting church every Sunday. And I'm not saying this to bash anyone, or I'm not saying this to push anyone down. If you fell off during COVID and you're regaining your strength and faith now, then I give you props for that, and I'm proud of you. But let's face it, this is the truth. And the truth is that COVID literally separated the children of God from those who are creation of God. COVID came and did this wake-up call to the church that those, and I'm including myself, those of us who woke up. And those of us who didn't wake up, and I'm including myself on that too, as you can tell, those of us who didn't wake up stayed asleep and they didn't even realize that we fell off of church. I myself know so many people who grew up in church and right now are struggling. Again, I'm not saying this to bash anyone. I'm just saying that this is, in my personal opinion, sad. Seeing someone who met Jesus, knows about Jesus, and found out that he is amazing, and then fell off. That hurts. And I think COVID created that. But something that COVID also allowed me to see was that God shows up when he needs to show up, and not when you want him to show up. See, it's easy to serve God when everything is going in your favor. It's easy to serve God when you're in your happy place. It's easy to serve God when everything is falling into place. But what happens when you've been praying for something and right when you get ready to receive it, somebody else beats you to the punch and they get the blessing before you do? Can you worship God then? Can you look for God when nothing is in your favor? Can you look for God when everything is going downhill? Can you look for God in those moments? And as you begin to think about how ungrateful you have been, yes, I said it, because the reality is that we've all been ungrateful, to sometimes tend to blame God for the things that we are going through. And sometimes we push everything on God and ask Him, why, rather than, Lord, just give me the strength to go through this. So here I am being skeptical of COVID. And I started feeling under the weather. I started feeling bad. I couldn't retain any food. And I was considered an essential worker. So I'm having to go to work. And as I start feeling bad, I let my management team know. And they allow me to go home. I go to the doctor. I get tested. I go home. I'm not feeling well, but I'm thinking it's just a regular flu. So I'm not putting too much care in the world for it. And so I'm walking around like it's nothing, right? And I'm hanging in there and I'm being strong. But the next day, when I received the news that I have COVID, everything went downhill. It was like someone came and took my confidence away from me. Because before I knew I had COVID, I had confidence that it was just another sickness, that I was going to get over it, and that everything was going to be all right. But the moment I find out that it's COVID, I lose hope. And I lose hope because of everything that I'm listening to on social media. Everything that you're listening on social media was people getting sick and not surviving. It was people in the hospital that would recover, but they couldn't make a full recovery because of the side effects that COVID was leaving in their bodies. So here I am with COVID, realizing that number one, I'm either going to die, or number two, I'm always going to have some sort of side effect from this COVID. And then I start going on Facebook and I realize how all these preachers and all these pastors and all these great men of God are not surviving to COVID. And you sit there and I'm wondering, am I going to be one of those preachers, one of these pastors, one of these great men of God who are not going to see next year? And everything begins to go downhill. And you can call me crazy, but I had vivid nightmares. And in my nightmares, I actually saw demons. I would conversate with these demons about what was next for me. And I'm sitting there wondering, how could I, being a Christian, in my last moments, instead of seeing God, I'm seeing a demon. And the only thing going through my mind is, man, I wasn't ready. Maybe I needed to fix something else in my life. But whatever I didn't do created this. So now I'm not even ready to make it to heaven. I say that because, brother, sister, believer, if you're new to the channel, listen to me carefully. You got to live in a way that you are secured, that you are saved. You got to live life in a way that if something like this was to happen to you, you knew where you were going. You knew where God was taking you. You knew where life was, what was waiting for you in the afterlife. I'm not saying this to scare anybody, or I'm not saying this to tell people, oh, no, 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 that's not what I'm saying. But what I am, I'm sorry. The reality is that if you're not following Christ, there's only one other place that awaits for you. And with all the love in the world that I want to give you, I cannot sacrifice truth. Truth is one thing that I will not let allow to get watered down. The gospel is not one thing that I will allow to get watered down. And the reality is, brother, sister, listener, podcaster, we have to fix our lives so that we may be ready. As I'm sitting there realizing that maybe I'm not ready like I thought I was. Maybe there were some things in my life that I needed to be corrected, and I didn't have the opportunity to do so. I found myself not being able to breathe. I found myself coughing all the time, and I found myself getting weaker and weaker day by day. So I decided to pick up the phone, and I called my wife. And as I'm getting ready to dial the phone and call my wife, and I hear her lovely voice, and I thank God for the woman that He has placed in my life, because not only did she take care of me through the whole moment of my COVID season, but she remained faithful. As I pick up my phone and I call my wife, and I hear her voice, and I tell her, honey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I couldn't give you more. I'm sorry that I couldn't love you the way that you wanted to be loved. I'm sorry that I'm not gonna be here anymore. And she said, What? What are you talking about? Are you crazy? Why are you speaking like this? And I said, baby, I can't do it no more. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting for my breath. I'm tired of fighting for my breath. I'm tired of living in agony. I'm suffering and I don't know what else to do, and I'm getting weaker. I'm done. I quit. I don't want to fight no more. It hurts to just breathe, and I'm not strong enough anymore to keep holding on or to keep containing this pain. I'm done. And she said, What happened to you? This is not the husband that I married. I married a husband who was faithful. I married a husband who believed that anything was possible if you just believed. And I said, I'm sorry. I can't do it. And she said, What happened to your faith? And I said, Sweetie, look around you. People are dying left and right. There's absolutely nothing that I can do. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to ask for. I could barely talk by this time. So I'm technically whispering to her in our conversation. And she stayed quiet, and I said, Baby, raise the boys the way I wish they would be raised. Make them be great men. Talk to them about me their entire lives. Don't ever let them think that I didn't want to be there for them. I love them with all my heart, and I love you with all my heart, and just know that if there was anything I could do, I would, but I'm done. And she said, Honey, I've always respected you, but I need to tell you something. She said, Does God not operate on you the way that you say He operates for everyone? And I said, What do you mean? She said, can God not do what you've always preached that he could do in your life? Or is it that God can work for everybody? God can do miracles for everybody but you. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, how could you dare? Keep in mind, this is my wife. She said, how could you dare preach about a God who can do the impossible and you yourself are not believing it? How can you dare talk about a loving God and you are not even believing that he loves you? How do you dare preach to other people about keeping their faith and you've lost yours? How do you dare talk about this awesome God that's not even being awesome for you? And as soon as she said this to me, I began to cry. And I told myself how ungrateful I was. And I remembered that I had her on the phone on speaker, and I said, you know what, baby? If I die tonight, what would I want the people at my funeral to say about me? What would I want the people at my funeral to say who I was? And I said, if I die tonight, I want to go out worshiping God. So I got up from the bed as weak as I was and with no breath to breathe in my lungs and with hardly any strength. And I began to, in my whispering voice, I just began to worship God. And I said, God, if you take me today, you're going to take me while I worship. If I take my last breath tonight, it's going to be worship. I want my soul to be full of worship before I die. I would love for my wife, my family, that whenever they're talking about me on a funeral home or wherever it is that they're going to have my funeral, I want them to say, he worshiped till his last breath. He believed till his last breath. He preached about a God and he believed in that same God till his last breath. But no matter what, Miguel did not stop worshiping. That's what I wanted. So that's what I began to confess. I said, God, if you take me right now, allow it to be with worship in my lips, with worship in my soul, with worship in my mouth. Do not allow me to not have worship in me. Brother, sister, whatever it is that you're going through, whatever pit you fell in, whatever valley you're walking through, whatever fire you're daring to cross, whatever furnace the devil has thrown you in, let me tell you something. If today was the last moment that you got to spend here on earth, wouldn't it be beautiful to have worship in your mouth? Wouldn't it be beautiful to say, I'm going to worship till my last breath? And as I'm sitting there worshiping, I started feeling so hot. And I started sweating profusely. I started sweating so much, and my whisper became louder and my voice started coming back. I'm not talking about days. I'm talking about in seconds, in those moments. My voice came back, and out of nowhere, tears start falling off of my eyes because I couldn't even cry. I was crying, but no tears rolled down my eyes. But out of nowhere, tears started going down my eyes. And as I'm worshiping God and I'm saying, God, I'm going to do this. God, I'm going to stay here. And the Lord allowed me to see Mark chapter 5 when he talks to Jairus' daughter. Jairus' daughter was dead. Listen to me carefully. Jairus went to Jesus. Jairus said, my daughter is sick. And on the way back, they came to Jesus and they told Jesus, hey, it's done. She died. Don't even bother going to Jairus' home. Don't even bother going to Jairus. Don't even bother following him. Don't even bother going to his home. Don't bother. Don't waste your time. And Jesus looked at Jairus and said, Jairus, just believe. And God was telling me, Miguel, you are dead spiritually. And many people have given up on you. Many people have turned their backs on you. They know you're done for. But I'm here to tell you, can you just believe? If you just believe, brother, sister, listener, can you just believe? Can you just believe that he's going to make a miracle out of you? Can you just believe that he's going to take you out of the very place that you yourself put yourself into? And out of nowhere, I take a huge gulp of breath. Something that I had days, something that I had weeks without being able to do. The moment I began to worship, I take a huge gulp of air and just say, and in that moment, I started realizing God is healing me right now. God is healing me right now. Just like he told Jairus' daughter. He whispered to her and he said, Talita Komi. He came into my life. He whispered in my life and he said, Miguel, rise up. Never had I experienced something so precious like being able to breathe the way that I did that day. And God, I would ask him in that moment, I would say, God, why are you so merciful over me? There are pastors, there are preachers, there are great men of God who have truly dedicated their lives for you. I'm over here backsliding. How could you have so much mercy on me and you didn't have the same mercy on them? They're all dying, yet here I am, being able to breathe again. And I'm sorry that I'm being so vulnerable, but the reality is that you and I are not deserving of this grace. We don't deserve the grace that God has given us. We don't deserve this glory. We don't deserve this opportunity. We don't deserve any of it. But he is so merciful over you and over me. It's 2024 and you're still here. How could I not worship him? How could I not worship him? How could I not lift his name up high when he's done all of this for me? I wonder for so many minutes after, why me, God? Out of all these people in the world, out of all these people who truly dedicated their lives for you. Why did you choose to save me? And the Lord responded by saying this. Many times as Christians, we start something that God placed in our hearts and we start owning it. It's our mission. And I've heard this from so many people. Oh, it was the pastor's mission. He had that mission. You're wrong. This podcast, this is not my mission of how I want the world to figure out that Jesus Christ is the only way, the only truth, the only... No, that's not the point. This podcast is God's mission. And if I was to die right now, somebody else will rise up, step foot into this place, and continue New Horizon podcast. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about God. And as I began to be healed, God started telling me, Miguel, it's never been about you. It's never been about you. It's always been about me. God healed me from a sickness that brought so much death and so much torment and so much brokenness into the world. I'm here to tell you, God can and God will restore you. God will give you back. God will win you back. If you just believe. Don't worry about what the people around you are saying. Don't worry about all these people that are pushing you down. The people that make fun of you for going to church. The people that are ridiculing you for believing in God. Don't worry about it. Worry about being able to stand unto the throne of God and say, God, I'm here. And I want to worship you. And I want to give you my life. After COVID, the Lord gave me a song. And I will be releasing the song in the next week. It's going to be on this channel. And it's going to be exclusively only on YouTube. That song is called Talita Kumi. And it's just my story. But I wanted to let you know that God is coming into your life. He's whispering Talita Kumi. In other words, rise up. God bless you. And if you need any prayer, please comment. Hit the subscribe button. Send us a private message. You are not alone. God has always been there. We are here to help each other grow. God bless you guys.